Most people only buy the games everyone is talking about. But what if I told you that some of the best experiences out there barely got the attention they deserved, and you might have skipped them because of other people's opinions? These games had low sales, weak marketing, or simply launched at the wrong time. Today, I'm going to show you 15 underrated games that are worth every single penny. We're kicking things off with a game that was unfairly labeled as just a Zelda clone and then buried under a mountain of other Ubisoft releases. Immortals Fenyx Rising is a 10 out of 10 technical surprise that humbles the open world genre by being actually fun to navigate. While Assassin's Creed gets all the marketing, Fenyx perfected the systemic movement engine. Technically, the way the stamina and gliding mechanics interact with the world geometry is buttery smooth. It's not just about getting from A to B, it's about the physics-based puzzles built into the environment that require you to use the wind and gravity in real time. The art direction and painterly shader work is what really makes this a before-you-die play. It uses a specific, vibrant palette that avoids the generic, realistic look, allowing the hardware to focus on draw distance and particle effects. You can stand on a peak and see a puzzle glowing 3 miles away, and the game's data streaming handles the transition perfectly. It's lighthearted, the writing is actually funny, narrated by Zeus and Prometheus, and it's arguably the most complete game Ubisoft has released in a decade. If you skipped this because you thought it looked kiddie, you missed out on some of the best level design in the industry. It's worth every penny, especially now that you can find it on sale for the price of a sandwich. Alan Wake 2. Now, I know what you're thinking. Everyone talked about this game. But here's the reality. Alan Wake 2 is a technical miracle that not enough people actually bought. It's a sales underdog that humbles every other horror game in existence. Remedy's Northlight engine is doing things in 2026 that still feel like magic. We're talking about full path tracing and the most advanced mind place seamless UI ever created. When you switch from the real world to Alan's mind place, the game isn't just loading a menu, it's a physical room rendered in the background that you enter instantly. No loading screen, no transition, just pure technical flow. The live action integration is another technical flex. Most games struggle with FMV, full motion video, but Remedy blends real-world footage with in-engine assets using a layered transparency shader that makes it look like the actors are literally standing in the game world. It is a slow-burn, psychological masterpiece that respects your intelligence. It didn't have the Call of Duty sales numbers, but technically and narratively, it's a 10 out of 10 that redefined what prestige gaming looks like. If you haven't played this with a good pair of headphones and the lights off, you haven't truly seen what modern hardware can do. The Evil Within 2. This is the definition of underrated. The Evil Within 2 took the linear nightmare of the first game and turned it into an open-zone survival horror technical experiment. It's a 10 out of 10 because it understands tension management. Instead of constant jump scares, the STEM engine creates psychological zones where the environment shifts around you based on Sebastian's trauma. Technically, the geometry morphing, where a hallway suddenly turns into a photography studio, is handled with a memory swapping technique that is incredibly disorienting in the best way possible. The AI stealth logic is also miles ahead of the competition. The monsters in Union don't just patrol, they hunt based on sight and sound, forcing you to use the crafting and scrap system to survive. It's a game that was overlooked because it launched during a crowded season, but it is a much smoother and more responsive experience than the first game. The gore and body horror shaders are visceral, and the story of a father trying to save his daughter hits way harder than you'd expect. It's a gritty, beautiful, and technically sound masterpiece that deserves a permanent spot in your library. The Order 1886. Okay, let's get controversial. The Order 1886 was destroyed by critics for being too short, but in 2026, it remains one of the most technically stunning games ever made. Even a decade later, the physically based rendering, or PBR, used by Ready at Dawn still humbles brand new releases. Every material, the brass of the guns, the wool of the uniforms, the cobblestones of London, reacts to light with a filmic consistency that is 10/10. It uses a cinema-grade post-processing pipeline that includes high-quality motion blur and depth of field that many modern games still struggle to replicate. The real technical achievement here is the character rendering. The skin shaders and cloth physics were years ahead of their time. While it is a linear, cinematic experience, every second of that experience is a visual feast. It was underrated because people wanted a 100-hour open world, but what they got was a 6-hour technical showcase. If you treat it like a premium interactive movie, it is worth every penny of its current budget price. It's a world of werewolves and Tesla tech that looks so real you'll forget you're holding a controller. Don't listen to the old reviews. Experience the technical soul of this game for yourself. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth is a literal vacation for your soul. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece that often gets dismissed as too niche or just another Yakuza game. But technically, RGG Studio did something revolutionary here with the Dragon Engine's tactical evolution. They took a traditional turn-based system and injected it with real-time spatial logic. Instead of just selecting attack from a menu, you have to manually position your character to take advantage of proximity bonuses or knock enemies into environmental hazards like bicycles or passing cars. The technical detail of Honolulu is where the worth really shines. This is the largest map in the series' history, and the engine handles the transition from sunny tropical beaches to gritty urban alleys with a specialized vibrant lighting shader that makes the colors pop in a way that feels unique to Hawaii. The facial and body motion capture has been pushed to a new peak. Watch the subtle expressions during the karaoke scenes or the high-stakes drama. It bridges the uncanny valley by focusing on the life in the eyes. It's a 100-hour epic that balances heart-wrenching drama with the most absurd side content in gaming. It's underrated because people assume it's just a meme, but technically and narratively, it's one of the most robust RPGs ever built. Far Cry New Dawn. This is the one people love to skip, calling it just DLC for Far Cry 5. But in 2026, Far Cry New Dawn stands as a fascinating technical experiment in post-apocalyptic aesthetics. While most games in this genre go for brown and gray, New Dawn went for neon pink and floral overgrowth. Technically, the Dunya engine was tweaked to handle a massive increase in foliage density and bloom lighting. The way the super bloom flowers react to the sunlight creates a dreamlike, radioactive beauty that is a 10 out of 10 visual experience. The real underrated gem here is the Expeditions mode. This was a technical shift for the franchise, allowing the engine to load completely separate, highly detailed mini-maps outside of Hope County, like a crashed government plane or an abandoned theme park. This allowed for much higher asset fidelity because the engine wasn't tied to the main open world's memory constraints. The combat was also RPG-ified, introducing enemy tiers and damage numbers that added a layer of strategy to the gunplay. It's worth every penny because it's the experimental Far Cry, the one where the devs had fun and tried new things. It's fast, colorful, and far more creative than people give it credit for. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. This might be the most criminal snub in recent memory. After the mixed reception of the Avengers game, people stayed away from Guardians of the Galaxy, and that was a massive mistake. This is a 10 out of 10 narrative engineering triumph. The technical highlight is the banter engine. Eidos Montreal programmed a dynamic dialogue system where the characters are constantly talking and the script adapts in real time to your movements. If you stop to look at a plant, Rocket and Drax will comment on it. If you jump off a cliff, they'll make fun of you. This requires a massive amount of audio triggers and logic branching to make it feel natural and not repetitive. Visually, the Dawn engine, the same one from Deus Ex, delivers some of the most alien, psychedelic landscapes ever put in a game. The ray-traced reflections on the futuristic metal of the Nova Corps stations and the vibrant subsurface scattering on Groot's bark and Rocket's fur are top tier. It's a purely single-player, linear experience with zero microtransactions, a rare beast in the Marvel universe. It's worth your time because it has more heart than most big-budget movies. It uses its technical power to build a family, and by the end of the 15-hour journey, you'll be ready to follow these idiots to the end of the galaxy.
Days Gone. We have to revisit the Broken Road. Days Gone had a rocky launch in 2019, but with the 2025 remastered edition, it has officially become a 10 out of 10 mandatory play. The Horde engine is still a technical flex that humbles the industry. In 2026, the PS5 Pro and PC versions use PSSR, spectral super resolution, and an updated 16-band sky scattering model to make the organ wieldiness look photorealistic. The lighting, especially the ozone absorption in the sky simulation, makes the rainy, overcast days feel physically heavy. The technical worth is in the seamless scale. You can ride your bike from one end of the map to the other, stumble upon a 500-man horde, and engage in a massive physics-based battle without a single drop in frame rate. The DualSense haptic integration in the remaster lets you feel the rumble and grit of the bike's engine and the resistance of the terrain in the triggers. It was underrated because of early bugs, but today it is a polished, gritty, and deeply emotional story about loss and survival. If you want to feel the true terror of being chased by a liquid-like wave of monsters while managing your gas tank, this is the only game that delivers that specific survivalist high.
You've got nothing better to do than muck around with a corpse.
A Plague Tale: Innocence. Before Requiem became a household name, there was A Plague Tale: Innocence. This game is the definition of a sleeper hit that is worth every penny because of its technical efficiency. While AAA studios were spending hundreds of millions, Asobo Studio used a custom engine to achieve high-end photogrammetry and lighting that looked better than most blockbuster titles. It's a 10 out of 10 because it uses environmental oppression as a mechanic. Technically, the way the light and shadow interact with the rat AI is brilliant. The rats aren't just NPCs, they are a systemic liquid threat that is coded to react to every torch and light source with a specific grid-based avoidance logic. The sound design is where the technical immersion really hits. Using binaural audio for the swarming rats creates a physical sensation of being surrounded. Even though it's a smaller budget game, the character rendering, specifically the dirt, blood, and tears on Amisha and Hugo, uses a material layering system that makes them look incredibly grounded in their 14th century reality. It's underrated because people initially saw it as just another escort mission, but it's actually a tight, emotional, and technically polished thriller that respects your time. If you haven't seen the rat tornado in the final acts, you haven't seen one of the coolest technical flexes in AA gaming. Ryse, Son of Rome. This is the ultimate I can't believe this came out in 2013 game. In 2026, Ryse Son of Rome remains a technical anomaly. Even though it was a launch title for the Xbox One, Crytek used the CryEngine to implement full cinematic performance capture that still beats most games released last year. It's a 10 out of 10 visual experience because of the physical accuracy of the armor. The way the sunlight reflects off Marius's lorica segmentata, and the way the leather straps react to his movement using real-time vertex deformation is a masterclass in asset creation. It was underrated and unfairly criticized for its quick time events, but if you look at it as a tactile combat simulator, it's incredible. The hit reaction system is so precise that you can see the weight of every sword strike in the enemy's physics-based stumbling. The scale of the battles, specifically the landing at Dover, uses a distance rendering technique that makes you feel like you're in a movie with thousands of soldiers, even if only a few dozen are active AI. It's a 6-hour epic that is pure eye candy. If you want a game that makes you feel like a Roman general and humbles your graphics card, this is worth every cent.
Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Wait, how is a Star Wars game underrated? Simple. Because its sequel, Survivor, got all the next-gen hype, people often forget how technically revolutionary Fallen Order was for the franchise. This was the first time we got a Souls-like Metroidvania in the Star Wars universe that felt heavy. Technically, the Unreal Engine 4 was pushed to create seamless planet transitions. When you're on the Mantis, the game is streaming the next planet's geometry and textures in the background, so you can land and step out without a loading screen, a feat that was rare back then. The lightsaber combat physics are 10 out of 10. Instead of just glowing bats, the sabers use a point contact detection system that creates sparks and scorch marks exactly where the blade touches the environment or an enemy. The force physics, specifically the way you can freeze a blaster bolt and then pull the enemy into it, requires a level of object state tracking that makes you feel like a powerful yet vulnerable Jedi. It's underrated because the jank at launch turned people off, but today, with all the patches, it is a rock-solid, beautiful, and technically deep adventure that captures the Star Wars feeling better than the movies. Sleeping Dogs has to be talked about the greatest GTA clone that was actually better than GTA in many ways. Sleeping Dogs is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece of atmospheric open-world design. Technically, United Front Games did something incredible with the Hong Kong neon aesthetics. The wet surface shaders during the frequent rainstorms create a reflective, moody environment that makes the city feel alive. The environmental combat engine is the star here. Unlike GTA's aim and shoot, Sleeping Dogs uses a contextual interaction system where you can use phone booths, meat hooks, and shutters as weapons, all with unique physics-based animations. The soundtrack and soundscape are technically brilliant, utilizing city binaural recordings to make the street markets feel loud and claustrophobic. It's underrated because it was a new IP that got lost in the shuffle of bigger brands, but it offers a better melee combat system, a more engaging undercover cop story, and a technical soul that is purely its own. It's worth every penny because it's a high-octane martial arts film that you can play. If you haven't performed a slow-motion car jump while shooting an Uzi in a rainy Hong Kong alley, you are missing out on one of the best moments in gaming history. Sunset Overdrive. If you want to know what it looks like when a studio is allowed to have pure fun, you look at Sunset Overdrive. Before Insomniac Games gave us Spider-Man, they created this neon-colored punk rock masterpiece that was unfairly sidelined as an early Xbox exclusive. This is a 10 out of 10 technical achievement in kinetic flow logic. Technically, the game is built on a velocity-based engine. The faster you move, the more the world reacts. The traversal to combat pipeline is flawless. The game uses a magnetic grind system that requires the engine to calculate your pathing in real time while you're simultaneously firing complex projectile weapons. The visual fidelity is a Technicolor flex. Even in 2026, the stylized PBR, physically based rendering, makes the overcharge monsters look like gooey, glossy plastic in the best way possible. The particle density is insane. When things explode in Sunset Overdrive, it's a shower of colors and on-screen text that humbles the boring realism of other open worlds. It was underrated because people didn't know what to make of its awesome-apocalypse vibe, but technically, it laid the groundwork for the movement systems we love today. It's worth every penny because it's a shot of adrenaline that never lets up. It's the loudest, brightest, and most energetic game on this list. Assassin's Creed Mirage. Now, this pick is going to be controversial because everyone was waiting for the next big RPG, but Assassin's Creed Mirage is a 10 out of 10 technical love letter to the roots of the franchise. It was underrated because it was seen as a smaller project, but technically that focus allowed for a level of crowd and parkour density that the massive RPGs like Valhalla simply couldn't achieve. Baghdad is a technical jewel box. The engine uses a specialized verticality logic that ensures every rooftop, every clothesline, and every market stall is a valid parkour path, creating a flow that feels more like Prince of Persia than a modern open world. The social stealth AI was completely rebuilt for this game. Technically, the way the notoriety system interacts with the city's inhabitants is much more complex than previous entries. NPCs will actually point you out to guards or react to your presence based on your infamy level. The blue and gold color grading and the chromatic aberration effects, which were later patched to be optional, give the game a unique historical fantasy look that is incredibly sharp. It's worth your money because it's a tight experience. It's not a 150-hour grind, it's a 20-hour masterpiece of atmospheric stealth that proves that sometimes less is more. If you miss the feeling of being a true assassin in a crowded, dusty city, Mirage is the technical peak of that vision. Dead Island 2. To finish our list, we have the game that lived in development hell for a decade and emerged as one of the most technically polished titles of the decade. Dead Island 2 is a 10 out of 10 because of one specific piece of engineering, the Flesh system, fully locational evisceration system for humanoids. This is, without exaggeration, the most advanced gore tech ever created. Technically, the zombies aren't just models. They have procedurally generated layers of skin, fat, muscle, and bone that react differently to every weapon. A blunt hammer will shatter bone, while a blade will slice through muscle fibers in real time. It's gruesome, yes, but it's a technical flex that makes the combat feel incredibly physical. The optimization is the real hidden gem here. While many 2024-2026 games launched with bugs and performance issues, Dead Island 2 runs like a dream on almost any hardware. The stochastic screen space reflections and the lighting of the HELA mansions create a sun-drenched, satirical atmosphere that is visually stunning. It was underrated because people expected it to be a disaster after so many years of development, but it turned out to be a rock-solid, incredibly fun, and technically flawless brawler. It's worth every penny because it's the ultimate guilty pleasure game, executed with a level of professional polish that humbles the biggest AAA studios. And that's it. 15 underrated legends that prove you don't need a massive marketing budget to create a masterpiece. The best experiences are often the ones you discover for yourself, so stop waiting for the hype. Give these games a chance. They're worth every penny. Now I want to hear from you. Which hidden gem did I miss? What's that one game you're always recommending to your friends? Drop it in the comments. I might make a part 2 based entirely on your suggestions.